If you're like most of us, chances are you're wasting time. You're spending a few hours a day doing things that aren't moving your life forward. This is not about being the toxic hustle culture, but this is actually changing your time to match your values, because chances are you're actually using your time for things that don't really matter to you. And if they're not moving your life forward, unfortunately, they're moving your life backwards, because there's no such thing as standing still. So in this video, we're not only going to break out some tips on how to regain your time, but we also have to look at how are we spending our time. So we're going to start off today with something I like to refer to as auditing your time. So how we spend our time each and every day probably is partially mindless, because let's be honest, social media is highly addictive. There's advertisements all over the place. So sometimes you can get also sucked into going to places that you just kind of go to on autopilot, right? So this idea that we just kind of drive, you've ever been in the car and you have the intention of going somewhere and you actually end up somewhere else? It's because you're typically used to going to that place, right? It's a part of your muscle memory. Well, we have the same thing with how we use our time each and every day. Chances are we're spending a couple hours a day either on social media, scrolling on Netflix. If you're like me, sometimes I like to scroll and chill. So I'm watching my Netflix and I'm also scrolling. So like, they should probably have a category just for people who are like something that I can watch while I'm scrolling, but kind of half pay attention to. So that should probably actually be a category, because unfortunately we're like poor habit stacking, right? So I'm actually going to include something in the description here below, and that is a free tool for you guys on how to audit your time and really look at it in depth. So as we're looking at how many hours a day we're spending doing something, you have to be honest with yourself. It's irrelevant to me, honestly. I mean, it's your life. So be honest, right? Because if you're going to spend the time to audit, look at your life as it is. Look at it from a non-judgmental lens. Be an observer. Pretend that this is someone else's schedule. Because if you realize that you're auditing your time and you do everything like for a week just to change, so that way you can say to yourself, oh, I'm not really using my time poorly, that's like denial. So don't do that. Actually, really look at how your life is going. Just look at the facts. I would start it from today. So like before you watch this video, write down everything that you did. Write down the time that you spend, and that does include the things that are like 20 minutes long, because those are actually pretty dangerous, because it seems like, oh, it's not that much time, but that time adds up because math's a thing. It's not a matter, again, it's not a matter of how you feel about it, but it's just a matter of what you're doing at this point. Once you're done writing down exactly just from the observer lens, what are the facts? Spend some time in looking at what you're doing to make things grow that you want to grow. So your next step, again, this is all available in the description. I made a nice PDF for you. You can download it. You can either fill it out online if you have that ability, or you can print it out, any way that you want to do it. But what you want to do is you want to look at how you're spending your time and what you are hydrating. So are you doing something to make something grow stronger that you want? So for example, you may be evaluating things that you say are important to yourself, like this plant could represent family. But when I look at how I'm actually spending time with family, I might only be spending like an hour with family. And then the time that I'm spending with them, what am I actually doing? Is it something that is going to enhance our lives? Is it something that we can connect with as a family? Or are we just kind of in the same space? And does that count to you? It depends. It's your life again. You have the ability to look at your time audit and say, what am I helping grow in my life? Is this something that I want to see sprout up and grow really well? For example, you may say that I want to spend some quality time focusing on my self-development. So if you're like me, I'm like crazy into self-development, and that may mean that there's certain habits that I'm doing that's actually helping that grow. So for example, I do watch a lot of YouTube and I like to create the content too. But whenever I'm looking at YouTube, am I looking at it for the sake of my professional or my personal development? Well, maybe, right? But I could also be spending time scrolling shorts, which I do. And I can't honestly count that as time focusing on my personal development if I'm truly being honest with myself, and I encourage you to do so. So if you're not helping the plants that you want to grow, chances are you have a lot of weeds in your life. You don't plant weeds with intention, but they just kind of sprout up in our lives. So what, like metaphorically, is happening in your life that you don't really actually intend on growing, but it tends to grow anyhow? And just like how weeds sprout up, they kind of go one into another, right? So like when I'm watching one YouTube short, I'm going to be watching probably 20 YouTube shorts. And that's just like when I'm looking outside my house and I see one weed and I don't do anything about it. And then before I know it, I have a whole bunch of weeds everywhere. And then I have a lot of work to do. So instead of saying, okay, well, I'll just deal with this later, what can we do now to limit it or eliminate it? I'm not saying you have to give up YouTube shorts or give up scrolling on TikTok, but just know, where's your balance? You have to have balance in life. Without proper balance and making our own decisions, we kind of go along with the masses. I don't know, just you have to make that decision. Like there's no one that can make this decision for you but you. And that's the beauty of it. And you have the ability to change. The next thing you can do to help save some time is make life easier. Okay, that may seem ridiculous to say that, but you have to make the habits that you want happen much easier, much more accessible, right? So you need to put some friction in your life between the things that are slowing you down and put some kind of an accelerant on the areas that are going to help you grow the way that you want to, right? So I've been working on changing my diet, changing my habits around food. And one thing I need to do, and I have been doing, is making produce more accessible and making sure that the other things that I like are not as in reach or as available. So that may mean that if I want to have a certain type of snack, that I don't keep it in the house all the time, but I put some friction between it and I only get it from like maybe the gas station. Because that does two things. One, for me, it lets me know that, hey, it's not available here. You have to like physically go to the store to get it. But then I get it at the gas station, so I have to pay a premium. So that way I have two hits that make this even less desirable. Whereas whenever I'm looking at, when I'm actually hungry, or looking for a nice little snack, I can grab an apple that's already the kind of apple that I like. It's ready to go. I might just have to rinse it off and then there's no friction, right? So I have it accessible. It's something I can see every day. It's sitting in a nice fruit bowl. But then the other things, I'm kind of putting the brakes on a little bit. And you have to find that balance, right? So some of us are kind of extreme and you can't have access to something, and that's okay. You have to witness that for yourself. You have to realize that for yourself. But when you look at the idea of what's easy in your life right now, and if you looked at your time audit and there was a lot of things that didn't align with your value set, that's okay. But you have to realize that you can change your environment. So changing your environment is essential if you want to change how you're using your time. Time is not a renewable resource, so we have to be mindful with what we're doing. The next area that we can focus on to stop wasting time is actually gratitude. Before I spent time honing my gratitude practice, I would spend a significant amount of time worrying about things that probably weren't even true. I spent time ruminating on ideas that didn't move me forward. And then that led to some other actions, right? So if I'm leaning into gratitude, I'm like, I'm so grateful for the neighborhood that I live in. So I'm going to go for a bike ride. I am so grateful to be able to see the sunset. So I'm going to go outside for a few minutes. Like here in a few minutes, I'm going to get ready to go to work, and I'm going to go outside and look up at the stars and see what magnificence that there is on this earth that I didn't create, but I get the opportunity to look at it. Or I can make the decision to look at life through like, oh, I don't want to do this. I have these tasks at work that I'm stressing out about, and I don't want to go. So then maybe I get up, and before I get out of bed, I scroll for like 20 minutes, and then I slowly get dressed, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I got to do these things. Or I could look at the fact that I do have the ability to change my life. And like today, I got up at like 3:30 because I was honestly 3:30 a.m. I was a little hyped up to not only record, but there's some new tools that I want to try out. I'm just like super excited for where my life is going because I'm leaning into abundance and not leaning into the idea of loss of agency. I have the ability to move myself forward, and so do you. So if you're watching this video and you made this far, thank you not only for watching, but please like and subscribe. There's going to be a couple extra videos kind of floating around the screen, so you can go ahead and choose to watch one of those. If you're looking to reset your life, you have the ability to make that change, and you have the ability to make that change today.